Welcome to your Wordless podcast, the space where we redefine success, self-worth, and transformation. I am Nierras, the soul-centered architect of transformation, helping you unlock your highest potential and build a legacy beyond limits. Now, whether it is self-mastery, career breakthroughs, or wealth creation, this is where change begins. Now, let's dive in. Can you please share with us, what was it like growing up as a Jack Kammer?
It was pretty good. Pretty good. I was one of 7 kids. My parents stayed together. My father was an old-time family doctor. My mother was a nurse, sort of worked in the office as a nurse, sort of worked in the office as the office staff person. My father had 7 kids. My mother had 7 kids too, coincidentally.
Coincidentally, okay.
Yeah, so my father had 7 kids, and he was an old-time family doctor. Didn't charge his patients a lot of money. They all loved him. He was a much better doctor than he was a father. He was far more dedicated to his medical practice because he was loved there much more than he was loved at home. And there's lots of reasons for that. That's very sad to say, but he became an alcoholic. And that, as anybody who's been a member of an alcoholic family knows, it gets into your head and changes a lot of things for you, not many of which are happy. Having a father who was successful according to traditional male standards, he was a doctor, made pretty good money, but he was not really connected at home. And I saw how that worked for him, and I just knew I don't want to live like that. I don't want to be that kind of a man. I don't want to be that kind of a father. What exactly I did want to be, sort of remained to be seen. I was born in 1951, so I grew up in the 1950s and 1960s. And, back in the early 1960s, the women's movement was just beginning. Betty Friedan, you know the name Betty Friedan? She wrote the book, The Feminine Mystique.
I've heard of it, but I haven't read it.
It's really good. It's really good, actually.
Okay.
She's pretty much credited with being the person who kicked off the current stage of feminism. She became a co-founder of NOW, the National Organization for Women, and its first president. But the movement was just starting when I was getting into my adolescent, teenage, young adult years. I probably would have liked to have been born a little earlier. No, a little later? Yeah, a little later.
You want to be older? Okay.
Yeah, well, I would have liked for the women's movement to have been a little more far along. In its early days, I liked what the women's movement was about. I liked what feminism was about. It was about breaking down gender barriers. It was about ending sexism, and it talked about sexism against both genders. And men that I knew, men like me, were very happy and excited about the idea of ending sexism against men because there are a lot of sexist expectations of men. You're going to go work, you're going to make money, and that's how you're going to show your love for your family. That's what men do. Well, having seen my father do that and having seen how that didn't really guarantee him a happy life, I thought I didn't really want to pursue those traditional ideals of successful family life, successful fatherly family standards. I wanted something different. I would have liked to have found a woman who had a good career of her own, who would not need me to make a lot of money. She would be happy to have me taking a very active role at home with the kids, and I would have been very happy to support her in her career. Now, that didn't happen for me, but it is happening more and more with couples today. Now, I don't want to suggest that I think it's a fait accompli and our work is done. No, it's just beginning. And there is actually, in my view, some backlash against the idea of men being fully equal parents. You can find women who will be honest enough to say, yeah, I want my husband to be more involved at home, but I don't want him to be as involved as I am with the kids. I mean, I'm the mother.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And so we still have some work to do. And this is even with women with careers. Even women who have really good, solid careers sometimes have trouble allowing the husband to be as well loved by the kids as the mothers are. I mean, for instance, I have had women acknowledge to me that I say, imagine that it's a Saturday afternoon and you and your husband are finished with all the chores and errands you need to do, and you got a little time to chill. And so you are in the living room sitting on, your favorite chair, and you're reading your favorite magazine, and your husband's sitting in the chair, his favorite chair, and he's reading maybe a newspaper. And you have your little child outside. You can hear the child playing outside, and then you hear the child maybe on his or her tricycle or bicycle falling and having an accident and starting to cry. And I say to the women, you can hear the child running from place where she was hurt, closer to the house, coming into the back door through the kitchen. You can hear the door of the kitchen slam shut behind her. And she comes running into the living room where both you and your husband are. And she goes, Daddy. And a lot of women say, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Where's my place in this?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's not bad that women feel that way. They feel that way because they love their child. It's only bad if they don't want the child to have as much love from the father as from her. So there is some backlash here because lots of women don't have fabulous careers where they need a husband to take over a big role at home. They just have jobs. And some women don't even have jobs. Being a mother is their job. And they can be very jealous and protective of that, just as men in the 50s and 60s were very protective about their jobs and their careers. They weren't thrilled about the idea of women encroaching on, academia, science, government, corporate life. We had a lot of stereotypes back then to justify why women did not belong in the economic sphere of life. Should I recount for you some of those old stereotypes?
Yes, please.
Okay, you want me to? Okay. Women aren't smart. They aren't logical. They can't make tough decisions. They cry too much. They just want to make everybody happy. Is that enough? You get the idea, right?
Yeah.
And
yes.
they can't be scientists because they're just they don't get science because they're women.
Yeah.
Stereotypes serve the purpose of keeping one group sort of marginalized by another group in a field where that second group is dominant. And I think very much the same thing is happening. And this will very much tie into this idea of you're worthless. I see very much the same thing happening with all of the stereotypes we hear today about men that are very effectively making many men feel worthless. These stereotypes are largely to explain and justify why men don't really belong as full and equal parents in the family. Should I tell you some of the stereotypes? You can imagine them. Okay.
Yes, please
right?
do.
Well, you want me to say some? Well, men are violent, men are mean, men are cruel, men are impatient. They just want to drink beer. They're sex crazed, all of that stuff. They're clueless. They can't multitask. All of these things very much like the stereotypes that we had about women to keep them out of man's place. I believe that these stereotypes are very much at work trying to keep men out of women's traditional place. And when young men, especially teenage boys, are hearing that men are clueless, boys drool, girls rule, who needs men? And then on the dating apps or in the dating scene, these guys are hearing that if they're not making a lot of money, who needs them?
Wordless.
I'm worthless. Suppose you probably know that an Australian researcher recently found that the most common phrase in male suicide notes, at least in Australia, I think she found two. I feel so useless. I feel so worthless. And I think that with all of the stereotypes being propounded against men these days, it makes sense that a lot of men are going to feel worthless. There are books called Are Men Even Necessary? The End of Men. Hillary Clinton, right after she finished a losing presidential campaign, in which her slogan was Stronger Together, she goes in front of a video camera and says, and yes, the future is female. How's this make young boys feel? Not very good. Not very good at all. And so that's how I see the backlash taking shape. It's not because women are evil or bad. It wasn't because men were evil or bad. It's because they were human and they were insecure about losing their role in life, their jobs. You know, they're primarily supposed to make money, and take away my job, I'm going to be pretty insecure about that, because now what am I going to do? How am I going to be the man I'm supposed to be? It's not because women are bad, but because they're human that they feel like they, as women, are sort of course, blessed with this natural ability to be everything their children needs. Yeah, I do want the husband to be more involved, but, not as good as me. Not so much as me. Now, and even where there are women with really fabulous careers who need and want men to be heavily involved at home so that the women can pursue their careers full tilt without worrying about the kids, feeling perfectly confident that George has got the kids and he loves them and they love him and he's taking good care of them. It still happens, even in that ideal situation, it still happens sometimes that divorces occur. And men are reluctant to be giving up their jobs where they're making money and maybe feeling fulfilled, and certainly doing what the traditional male role is of being the monetary provider. So they've given that up to be fully invested at home, but their investment is not protected, because it still is the case that for many men, remaining full-time or fully invested, fully respected, fully equal parents isn't in the cards for them. And as you go lower down the economic ladder, you find men who have no chance, very little chance, of being regarded as equal parents to their kids, because they're not even married to the mothers, and the mother might have 3 kids by 3 different men, and so no man really has much authority in the house where the 3 kids are, because each of them only has one of the 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so those fellas at the bottom of the heap of the economic hierarchy that is the male power structure, those fellas are, they are often very powerless. And in your introduction, you didn't mention that I was a parole and probation agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did not. Yeah.
That's all right. So I was a parole and probation agent in Baltimore. And I had lots of ex-offenders in my caseload who would tell me, I don't want to be a wallet. I don't want to be a wallet. And all anybody is asking me is, do you have a job? 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 I mean, that's even one of the conditions of probation, that you're going to find a job. And many of them can't, because they have bad educations. They have no skills. They have an arrest record. They live in an economically depressed neighborhood. So these guys are, really hurting. But they do not want to be just a wallet. And I believe that there is a paradox available to us here. I believe that the less we focus on those kind of men, those down and out men, the less we focus on them making money, the more money they will make. Because if we focus I know, it's a paradox.
What? How?
I know, it's a paradox. If we focus just on beating these guys over the head and say, where's your job? Get a job. Where's your money? Where's your money? First of all, they don't have any skills. The good jobs are not nearby. The good jobs are, a 3-hour bus ride away. They're not going to make a lot of money. The mother of their children might consider it chump change. Very little. You don't make enough money for me to really want you to be in this house. You're more trouble than you're worth. If, though, we de-emphasize having these fellas make money and emphasize the other value that they have, which is their love for their children, they have a relationship with their children. The children really want them, really need them, really love them. They're much more likely to be motivated and stay motivated at finding a job, keeping a job, and not feeling like they're just bringing home chump change. Because along with the low salary, they're also going to be showing the wife, I have lots of other value than just this little paycheck. I am helping you raise these kids. These kids love me. I'm very good for their mental attitude. I'm good at providing guidance for them. I mean, the science is very clear that fathers are important to their children. They have value to their children, and to ignore that value. I know you were in corporate life. I think you were an accountant, right? So you know the phrase, you don't want to leave money on the table, right? We leave men's money on the table. It's not money in the green sense. It's money in the red sense, because a heart is red. We're leaving their value on the table if we do not recognize that these men don't want to be just a wallet. They want to be parents. They want to love their kids. They want to have their kids love them. They want to have the wife respect them. They want to relationships are the most important things in human life. And we need to emphasize male relationships if we want men to be happy and productive. So when I hear young men talking about how lost and bereft they feel about what place do they have in the future, I want to say to them, look, it's pretty clear what's happening. The future for you is not just in making money. The future for you is in making some money and also making some love in a family with kids who want you, need you, and love you, that you love, whose mother has a career, and whether she is ready to acknowledge it or not, she needs a fully equal parent to help her with her family so that she can do her career. It's a win-win, but a lot of women are very much involved in zero-sum thinking. Well, I don't want the kids to love you because then they'll love me less. That's not the way it would work. Instead of worrying about how big the pie is, and if I give you a bigger slice, it's going to be a smaller slice for me, better thinking is, hey, you take half this pie, I'll take half this pie, and then when we're full and we're not hungry, let's go out and build a bakery. And instead of having just one pie, we'll make more pies. Because we got a good thing going here. There's synergy. There's love, power in the best sense. There's happiness. We're all feeling good. We're all motivated. I love you. You love me. I respect you. You respect me. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Much better than, that's not the right way to put a Band-Aid on our daughter. That's not the right way. I'll show you how. Making the man feel like he's, not
Later.
capable. Because he's a man, and therefore he's clueless, can't multitask, doesn't know anything about kids. Come on. It's nonsensical. It's a repeat of what we already saw 50, 60 years ago, and we're still working our way through that. Let's not impose this on men in the other direction. And young men are taking it hard. They're taking it hard. They're hearing that if they're not making big money, they're not needed. When the truth of the matter is that big money is not the most important thing they want to be needed for. Because guess what? Men are human beings. Men have feelings. Men have love. And we waste that. We waste that. We shouldn't.
I love the way you unfolded everything here, Jack. And it's very apparent that this problem started way back, right? At first, it's men having superiority over women. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. And then it goes down. Now we've achieved that, sort of quote unquote achieved that. And now we're trying to overturn that again by saying, hey, women should step up and then leave more space for men to have roles in their house. And now it's like we're never satisfied. One part, we started with this. We never thought about the consequences afterwards, or I don't know, half a century later. And now we're in this deep shit. Excuse my language. Right? It's like now you're saying you're advocating for men and boys, but on the other hand, there's a household that's raising girls as like you hear mothers or their fathers too, if the right dynamics is there, it's instilled since these two individuals come from healthy parenting, right? You have these parents saying to their kids, if they have daughters, and they say, hey, you need to stand up for yourself, right? I don't want to say you don't need men because they're too harsh and it's extreme, but you can hear it. These parents are equipping their kids, their daughters especially, to be more guarded towards men or boys that come into their life that may have nothing to offer. The paradox here is you have this man that is feeling worthless already because of the upbringing. They don't receive the love that they deserve from their father, especially. But you have this one kid from a very healthy, loving family, parenting, excellent. And then you have these two coming and then growing up in a society where you see the gap widens where, hey, the girls will continue to see the men like this and the men will continue to see the women like this. It's a catch-22. What are your thoughts? What's your take on that? Hi, I'm Nierras, your host of the Your Worthless podcast. Now, if these real raw stories hit home, don't wait. Please follow, like, and subscribe my Spotify and YouTube. For bite-sized inspirational reels, follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Don't wait. Your transformation starts today. Thank you, and bye for now.
Well, I want to go back to something you said about maybe a minute and a half ago. The idea that men had superiority over women.
Yeah, I knew you were going to take it. Okay, yeah, let's go.
Well, no, I'm not going to quarrel with that. Well,
okay.
See, I am not an anti-feminist. I am a counter-feminist. I'm a feminist who doesn't believe that women know everything about men.
Agree.
Okay.
Agree.
So, yes, men had superiority over women in traditional male domains. Men had the responsibility, the obligation, the role of making money. Society said that's going to be your role, guys. And to make it possible for men to fulfill that role, they were given authority over the place where money is made. Okay. So that's the male power structure.
Mm.
And it's typically envisioned as a pyramid or a hierarchy with narrowness at the top, a wide base at the bottom, many more men at the bottom than at the top. At the top of the pyramid is a big dollar sign, right? And men are trying to climb up that pyramid. It's very competitive, very stressful. Not every man, gets the golden ticket. Most men don't. We talk a lot in the U.S., and since you were in corporate life, you might have heard it too. We talk about the Fortune 500, and we look at who are the CEOs of the Fortune 500, and we look up there and we say, look at all those men up there. How come there's no women up there? Very few women up there. How come? What's going on up there? That's not fair. Yeah, we talk a lot about the Fortune 500. We don't talk at all about the misfortune 5 million. The misfortune 5 million. All right? Okay. So you can think of that male hierarchy, that male power structure as a pyramid. Let's also think of it as like a skyscraper. Very tall vertical building. And the people who make the most money, they're going up to the penthouse. At the very same time, where the men were over here in the skyscraper working to make money, women were in a different kind of a building. It's not a skyscraper. You can't be 10 miles away, look across the horizon and see it. So compared to this thing, the skyscraper, we think, wow, women don't have any power. But women's power is not contained in a skyscraper. The structure therein is much more like a convention center. It might be only 1 or 2 stories or 3 stories tall, but it covers 14 acres. What goes on in a convention center? It's not competition, dog eat dog, stabbing each other in the back for a promotion. It's networking. It's partnership. It's friendship. It's doing deals. It's being nice to each other, finding common interests. And just instead of the dollar sign at the top of the male power structure that only a very few men are close to, there is no dollar sign in the female power structure. And there is no top of the female power structure. It's just a flat roof. But at the center of that convention center, not a golden dollar sign, a big red heart. So women were tasked with taking care of family stuff, the relationship stuff, the friendship stuff, the love stuff. And I would suggest to you that there's a lot of good value there that is much more evenly distributed amongst the women in the convention center than the good male stuff is evenly distributed amongst men. Some men make a whole lot of money. A lot of men make very little money. But if you look in the convention center, in the female domain, you can open up a very nice little business in the convention center by being a mother. And you are the CEO of this little corporation. And your kids are your clients. And under the old style, under the old system that we are just beginning to break down, and that I hope we will continue to be breaking down, in that convention center, the father is just on a dotted line to the CEO mother. And he's pretty much of a vendor. He's a vendor. He supplies money, which we need. And so it wasn't first men were in power and then they weren't. It was first men were in power in the male domain, and at the very same time women were in power in the female domain. The situation now is that the formerly male domain is not nearly as male-dominated as it once was. It's getting to be much more equal. The female power structure is lagging way far behind in becoming gender equal.
I see.
And we really need to get past the ideas that men had to get passed to allow women into the female power structure, into the male power structure. I mean, it was a shame that we wasted so much female talent. Women have shown us they can be great lawyers, they can be great doctors, they can be great scientists, they can be great managers, they can be great politicians. Women can do all of these things, and it's good that we don't waste that talent anymore. By the same token, men are human beings with love and feelings, and we have many children who suffer from a deficit of parenting because the mother's trying to do everything.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I love the last part when you said women wants to do everything, because in our heads, we'll feel like, you know what? If that guy can't do one thing good, you might as well do everything because I'm good. Why would I delegate? Especially when I have work and I'm thriving. But then at home, it seems like, you want to take all of the roles at home too and not leave anything for the fathers to help you with it. And that's where, especially for women who have careers. And I can see that play out in some of my friends' lives. I cannot speak for, because I don't have kids, but because I was married before. Even without kids, I was struggling with my then husband. What more? I don't know how it was going to play out if we were to have kids. Now that I'm a little bit wiser and I'm talking to a lot of people like yourself, it is so important that, two individuals come together in union and they have all their baggages with them, their parenting, right? Some are good, some are not good. So, but it is up to us on how to build the healthy or the relationship that you long after. But of course, our parents and us were here for the first time. Let's not talk about, past lives and whatnot. We're here for the first time. They're doing the best that they can because of the knowledge that they have then. So the point here being, at least for me, is that the needle is being moved, albeit slowly, but it is being moved, although it's taken us, 50 years, and more than that even, right? More than that. Because my podcast talks all about self-worth. So the word that is tied to an individual, men particularly, we see that. But the word that's tied to women as well, we see that. And it's about being the nurturer, the bearer of life into the world. So, but right now the society is also saying that women should be, how do I say this, more adept to or in tune with how men are coming into their lives. Now, I know there's a certain percentage, I don't know what's the statistics, the way women are being brought up is that, okay, you need to be good at this area of your life. But there's also a certain percentage that says, hey, you can only do so much, but then let's get the man involved as well. My society, the way that I'm seeing here right now is comparative to what I see online. I might not see the whole view of it, right? But the way I'm seeing where I'm at right now, I used to be in the city. Both parents have to work and they give up some of their roles to their nannies, good or bad, but it is up to these parents to also take back their control, say, have the good family system within the family to ensure that those kids grow up in a healthy, loving relationship. Now, it starts from the home, I think, but it also starts with the perception of yourself. And I want to go back to what you said earlier. When you were growing up, your father wasn't very present, right? How did that affect you? That's the whole story. This is how you came to be, or how you you explained the whole thing, but then how do you think that, when did you realize that you actually need to change this? Because it's pretty bold to have the statement that I'm actually a feminist. I'm talking in your in as yourself, a feminist, like 50 or what, 51 now. You were born 51, so that means you're 70 plus, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And that's pretty early for a male to actually start thinking or having that kind of thoughts. So I want you to really drill down on that, starting from where do we start, from the family or what? Yeah.
Becoming a podcast host was a natural extension of my second act. And after spending 15 years in the corporate world, I've transitioned to helping individuals overcome challenges like navigating tough relationships, career burnout, and aligning their mission with their soul's calling. By certifying as an RTT hypnotherapist and a lifestyle coach, I've made it my mission to empower people to recreate the life they deserve, and building a supportive community through my podcast. Now let me ask, are you facing challenges like struggling to reprogram your mind to attract wealth, weight issues that feel like a constant yo-yo, insomnia or restless nights from daily worries, or just a lack of confidence in public speaking? If the answer is yes, visit www.thenicknierrasholisticlifestyle.com and grab a free hypnosis audio of these common struggles. It's a sneak peek into how my coaching works. Are you feeling shy? Don't be, because I'm as real as it gets. Let's connect on Instagram and LinkedIn and start your transformation today.
Well, I know exactly where to start.
Okay.
Well, at 51, I was a baby.
Oh yeah, of course.
I can't.
So maybe 20 years later?
I can't go all the way back to 51, but I can go back to probably 59, maybe 61, 62. 63, Betty Friedan wrote her book. We know that it's not I'm going to talk about something we are familiar with and then relate it to something we're not familiar with. So we know that it's not a good thing if you see a young girl who's really good at math. Not a good thing to say to that young girl, gee,
You're really not good at math.
Gee, Nicolette, you're really good at math for
Okay.
a girl. Or, gee, Nicolette, you're really good at science for a girl. Or, gee, Nicolette, you're really good at sports for a girl. You know, you don't like hearing that, right?
No.
It's a subtle message that being good at math and science is really not very girly. Might be something wrong with you, Nicolette.
Yeah.
Get back in your lane. What I used to hear as a little boy was, gee, Jack, you're really good with babies for a boy. And I didn't have any words for that, what I was feeling. I couldn't articulate what was going on. I don't think the word sexism had been invented yet. Certainly hadn't been popularized. But I knew I did not like that. Something was up with that. And I bet you that if I didn't have a mother who was, it's sort of just, she was very encouraging to me, that I was a good kid and I was a go-getter and I was an eager beaver. And, my brothers and sisters accused me of being her favorite. I don't know that I was or not.
I can see that.
But I can tell you she was very good for my sense of myself. And I think if I had not had her giving me a very good sense of myself, it's very possible that I would have said, well, I'm not going to be anywhere near babies then.
Yeah, even though you love babies.
I love babies. What's more fun than a baby? Come on, right? So that's where I can take it back to. That's where it began for me. That's where it began for me. I can trace it forward if you want, but that's the sort of the crux of it right there.
So your mother was the pillar for you. Have you ever thought if your father were also equal in that sense, how would your life turn out?
All the time.
Do you think so? Really?
Yeah. Think about it all the time. Yeah, because I had to sort of manufacture. I had to write a book about, how do you grow up as a boy? What are you supposed to do as a man? What's the playbook? How do you do it? But I do want to say that although my father was not a great father, he was a very good man. His patients loved him. At his funeral, all of these patients came, and my 6 siblings were standing around in the funeral home at the wake, and they're buttonholing us and talking to us about how kind and caring and warm and loving and gentle and patient Dr. Kammer was. And my siblings and I are looking at each other like,
is this the same person? Yeah.
Who are they talking about? But see, he gave at the office. That's his relationships at the office with his patients were much better than his relationships at home with his family for a lot of reasons. So he was a good man, not a good father. As a good man, I did get some good things from him. And I think you're seeing one of the good things that he gave me right now, which is the courage and conviction to speak your mind, say what you believe, and stand up for what you believe. And if you see a problem, and you think you might have an idea about how to make it better, don't hide. Offer your opinion, stand up, explain. And he did that a lot. So, it's sort of a mixed bag for me. But I do think about how my life could have been very different if I had had the kind of father that, some of my friends had.
I love that. So I think the key takeaway here, at least for me, is for women to give that space up for men to show their vulnerability and their true nature of having feelings, being human. And they can also be, how do I say this? Emotional is just not the right word, but affectionate, openly.
Certainly, there are lots of words that could be put into that basket you're assembling. Okay? I will say that I am not a big fan of the word vulnerable and urging men to be vulnerable. Not because it's not good for men to be vulnerable, but because it sort of puts the wrong spin on it for men. Because you got them. I went to social work school. One of the basic principles of social work is you meet your client where they are. A lot of men are in a place where they don't want to admit that they're vulnerable. So instead of beating on them to admit they're vulnerable, I think a better idea is to encourage men to look around and say, I'm in danger. I'm in danger here. That makes me feel I'm in jeopardy. That makes me feel I'm in danger. I feel like I could get hurt from this. And I would like to change all of these things because they're not safe for me. That's what I would suggest, rather than, yes, I'm so vulnerable and I really don't,
it's like
don't
giving
know
up your weapon
Exactly.
or your ammunition.
Men like to solve problems, right? If they feel like they have a half a chance at solving the problem, they'd like to give it a shot. So here's what I would suggest we want to say to your friends and all of the women out there who might be thinking that they want an alpha male.
Ooh, okay, yes, please.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Okay. What's better than an alpha male? An alphabet male. Instead of a man who can only say a, and you get a man who can say it all, who can speak it all, who can read it all, who can understand it all. You don't want to, especially if you've got your own career going, you don't really want a man with only one letter. You want an alphabet male.
Alphabet male.
Male.
alphabet.
An alphabet. The whole
The whole 26 letters.
The whole 26 letters.
Okay.
Because with 26 letters, he can talk about his feelings, which women like, talk about romance, which women like, can be affectionate, which women like. He can also dig deep to put words to how he's really feeling, so that when you say, tell me how you're feeling, I want to know what you're feeling, he can actually do it. And what does that build? That builds intimacy, right? And isn't that what women often say they don't feel like they get from their men? If women were to say, I don't want an alpha male, the money's nice, but that's pretty boring after about a week. I want a man who's making, a little bit of money's enough. I mean, I'm doing okay too. I want a man who's emotionally intelligent, who's got the whole spectrum of thoughts, emotions, and feelings that he's capable of. Emotional intelligence.
Jack, wow. I'm so sad. We have to come. We're close to the end of the show now. I love this conversation. I love whatever that you're saying is actually helping me with my therapy work as well, because not so many men come to me, but then it's giving me that nuggets that the way the issues that they portray is actually not that all women are bad. It's wrong to say that. It is just the two genders will need to come to understand. And the basic tenet of it is understanding and seeing that person for who they are. Like you said, meeting them for who they are, where they're at, and eventually realizing that we're all just one. We came from the same source. So now we're here to experience all of this in the 3D world, but inevitably we all come here to do our roles, and then we do it in the most loving and understanding. And yeah, so it's like we come from whole, we break apart, but not remembering that we're still whole, and then we come back to being whole again. Wow, Jack. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
Thank you, Nick. It was great talking with you.
Yes. Okay, Jack. So what are you working on currently? Any new books or doing, I don't know.
Having a great time being a podcast guest.
I can see that. I love it. It shines through.
Yeah, I love podcasting. It is, to me, is the most robust and civil marketplace of ideas right now. And I know that there are other platforms where there are expressions of opinion, but there's something very magical about the fact that you are the host and I am your guest. And so we have an obligation to each other here. And it would be a huge violation of our obligation to each other to be rude to each other and dismissive of each other and interrupt each other. And most podcasters I've met are really in podcasting because they are genuinely curious and or they generally want to just make the world a better place. So I love podcasting, and that's what I'm doing these days.
I love it. I love it. I love it too. I love it. Right. You just solidify again the reasons of why I do what I do. And for me, it's very therapeutic. For me, it's about meeting people where they're at and really diving. It's more from my curiosity, but it's also serving my audience as well. And along the way, I built great community who wants to listen to what I bring to the show. And for that, Jack, thank you so much for saying yes today. So we're going to pivot to a self-worth question. Okay, Jack? So the self-worth question for you: seeking external help, such as therapy or counseling, can be beneficial for addressing self-worth issues. Now, what are your thoughts on that? And how can individuals find the right resources and support for their needs?
Well, the first thing I would say is that can I speak just to men, because that's really what I most know.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
One of the things that I would urge men to ponder, consider, and maybe realize is that they feel very alone sometimes around these issues of self-worth. Men can feel a lot of shame over feeling self-worthless. Shame does not reach out for friends. It sort of makes you shrivel up and, just be kind of just sad and not feeling like you're even worth being a friend to anybody. So young men especially often feel that they have a personal problem. Nobody else feels this. Not true. So find yourself your best buddy and just say to him, do you ever feel like whatever you're feeling just now? Do you ever feel like something isn't right? And just as well as you can. Men often have a difficult time knowing what they feel, in which case, do you ever get a knot in your stomach when something happens? That's often a way of trying to get in touch with your feelings. Do your best job to try to communicate with your buddy, and there is a very good chance you will hear him say, wow, I'm glad you mentioned that because I thought I was the only one who felt that way. That's very common among men. I thought I had a personal problem. I never talked to anybody about this because I thought it meant I was defective or weird or a failure. And I wasn't like somebody was going to take away my man card. So yeah, thank you for saying that. And then, from 2, you go to 3, and from 3, you go to 4. And then, you got lots of little pockets of people just refusing to believe that they have a personal problem and beginning to recognize that there is a systemic problem. It's the culture that is often very not nice to men and boys. We're going to pick you up, and we're going to send you over here to this skyscraper, and this is where you're going to either be happy or be miserable. So good luck. When they see the convention center and they think, wow, I sure would like to be over there, a couple times a week. Nope, that's man up here. Come on, get with it. Don't be a sissy. You can do it. Go ahead. Climb up that. Go. Stab that guy in the back and do this deal and make your widgets, even though they pollute the environment. Go, make money. That's not really a way to make men feel tremendous sense of self-worth. If you feel like you're not happy with the whole be a man thing, you don't have a personal problem. You've had very good reason to not be thrilled with the whole be a man thing. Parts of being a man are great. I don't believe in the idea of toxic masculinity, at least not the way it's used today. Because today I think it's used as a weapon, just another stereotype to beat men down and make them no good. So that's what I would say to young men who are feeling bad and looking to feel better. To talk about these things, give it your best shot, and you'll find you're not alone.
I love the analogy, convention center and skyscraper. So letting the men visit the convention center some days of the week, and also letting the women to see and participate on what's happening in the skyscraper. I love that. Yeah. Maybe the one person that comes in, everybody will look, who is this? But then as time goes by, you see them, you see one group saying, hey, what about this group? We're supposed to come. Where are they? And it's also happening in the skyscraper. Hey, this group of, women are supposed to visit us. Where are they? I love that. Thank you so much, Jack, for that analogy.
Thank you very much.
So, Jack, a few more questions before I let you go. What is your heart's greatest wish?
Men and boys to have as many options for happiness in their lives as they can possibly get, as many as women and girls try to get. Men and boys can decide that they don't like it where they've been. They don't like the corporate life. I mean, you were in corporate life, and it wasn't, all peaches and cream, right? Right.
No.
Right. And you had the wherewithal, the self-esteem, the confidence to say, I'm not exactly sure what I am going to do, but I know I'm not going to continue doing this. Men and boys need similar options, the wherewithal to say, I know this might sound weird because I'm a man, but I'm going to give up this $400,000 job because I hate it. And I'm going to go do something else. And nobody will think, what kind of a man is that? And his wife will say, wow, okay, so I'm really going to miss that money, but I love you. I know you're still going to be you. And if that's what you need to do to continue to be happy, loving father and husband, go for it. I'm with you the whole way. That's, ideally what we could have. It's a little bit peaches and cream because you do need to make money. But whether your family has a BMW or a Toyota Corolla really isn't going to decide whether your kids are growing up happy or not. So, yeah, come on home, Dad. Bring your heart home. That's what we want you for.
If you could create a quote right now for you to leave to the audience listening in the world as your legacy, what would it be, Jack? A quote, yeah.
Well, let's see. There is a quote that I often use, but I use it with people who aren't as open-minded as you are. So I don't feel like I need to say it. I don't feel like I need to say it.
Okay.
So let's see. What's another one that I like to say? Oh, well, this is not really anything to do with, my main thing, which is, male gender issues. But if I had how about if I told you my favorite bumper sticker? If I was going to make a bumper sticker, what would it be? It would say procrastinate tomorrow.
Okay, that's a good one. Procrastinate tomorrow.
Yeah.
I thought you do it today.
Do it today.
Jack, you piqued my interest. I'm a person that's very curious. Now, you said you don't want to say that quote because people are not going to be so accepting.
All right. So, okay, you need to pretend, you need to hear this. And I want you to say something that, basically says, Jack, you're full of it. Only women have problems. Men have had all the power all the time. And it's craziness that you think men have problems. So I need to believe that you believe that.
Jack, you're full of it.
Hey, Nick, let me tell you, you think you want to be anti-sexist, right? And you don't think I have anything to say about that because it's all about women. Well, let me tell you something, please. This is what I believe. The most sexist idea of all is that only one sex is ever sexist and only one sex is harmed by sexism. That's the most sexist idea of all.
Wow. And that's why we needed to say that. You needed to say that.
I didn't need to say it to you, though, because you already knew. I mean, you were already open to that. That's why you invited me onto your show. I mean, it was wonderful from the start.
Thank you, Jack. And I think for my listeners, this is a very open channel. And if they accept the ideas or the topics that I bring in, they'll continue to subscribe. But if they don't, they have all the options in the world to unsubscribe. But then they'll see somehow my reels still floating in their feed. So it's a matter of time, Jack. And I love the work that you're doing. I'm here. At least I can support that journey of yours for you to share your story on my platform. And once this airs too, you will also be sharing it to your network. So, I mean, the world is going to change with all that's happening. I'm a big believer of free ideas, and the internet is enabling that, the podcasting too. So yeah, if they don't agree to this, subscribe to this idea, individuals or people, they need repetition. If you repeat to them enough times, even though it's going to take 10 years, 20 years, the needle will be moved. So I believe in that.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. So, Jack, how can people reach out to you?
Well, my background behind me shows the URL for male-friendly media. It's male-friendly media, all one word, no hyphen between male and friendly, malefriendlymedia.com. That's where I put all my stuff. I don't know that it's terribly engaging. I mean, it's just a lot of essays. There are some, I do have my podcast guesting appearances there. I have links to a YouTube channel I used to do. You know, if they got an hour to kill, you know, maybe they could have some fun at malefriendlymedia.com.
Really need to get you out there, Jack. We need you. So, Jack, anything else that you want to leave our listeners with before we close?
Well, I think I want to make sure your listeners know that typically the guest is out there on the podcast matching platforms saying, hey, podcast host, I like to be a podcast guest, and here's what I like to talk about, and please have me on your show. That's the way, you know, I spend a lot of time doing that. But with you saw my profile. I don't know how or why you came across it, but you saw my profile and you said, hey, I just read your profile, and you wrote this really perfect message to me. And do you remember, I thought it was, I wrote back and I said,
are you sure?
I said,
Are
go
you
ahead.
sure I talk about male gender issues? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that means
yes.
You must have had experiences where
Your message was so good. Do you remember I wrote back to you and said, did you really write this or did AI write it?
Did I write this? Yes.
Because it was perfect. I mean, from the get-go, it's like you understood, or at least were open to seeing that these issues of worthlessness affect men and boys. So, you know, kudos to you, because I didn't have to sell you on this idea. You saw it right away.
Thank you, Jack, for acknowledging. Thank you. That made my day. Really.
Thank you. No, really. I am indebted to you. Thank you.
We need to get you out. So if this is the first platform, and I intend to have speaking events, I'd love to have you on as well. So I haven't figured out the details just yet, but yes, I'm curating something in the background.
I would love to.
Thank you. And so that is a wrap on today's inspiring episode with Jack Kammer. Thank you for your wisdom and dedication to continue to uplift others, Jack. For our listeners, this has been your Wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Remember, if you've ever felt wordless, you are not alone. Your soul chose to be here to matter. And for that reason alone, you are worthy. A huge thank you to Jack and to all of you for listening. Until then, I am Nierras. Keep shining, keep growing, and always remember, you are worthy and you are enough. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much, Jack, for your time.
Thank you so much, Nick. It was a great show.
Hi, Jack. Good evening to you. How are you?
Good evening, Nick. I am very well, thank you. And good morning to you.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for saying yes to be interviewed today. I'd like to introduce myself formally to you and to all of our listeners. My name is Nicolette. I am the creator for the podcast titled Your Wordless. Read that again, the juxtaposition of your very soul. Now, I believe you're the perfect person for this show because we're going to talk about self-worthiness that's plaguing males predominantly, and also women, especially today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our listeners first before we get right into our conversation.
So that's me introducing myself.
Well, if you want to, you can introduce yourself too. I'd like to read.
I would rather not, because I would really brag, and that would be boring.
I mean, no, this is your spotlight.
No, please. If you got an introduction, please go ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. We have Jack Kammer here with us. Jack started a radio show on Men's Issue in 1983. Now, from his weekly interviews, he quickly realized that serious social problems are enmeshed in fallacious thinking and reasoning about what men and boys want and need. So now in 2005, he left his IT job and entered a dual master's program, social work in business, in the hope he could find work in social services. Now, no such job materialized. Okay, we have to unpack that. He did, however, find work as a correctional officer in the infamous Baltimore City jail. Ooh. Then as a trainer for National Fatherhood Initiative on running the InsideOut Dad program for incarcerated fathers. He is also the author of 3 books on male gender issues, and is now retired, but still actively advocating for men and boys. So welcome, Jack, to the show. Love this episode? Now, transformation doesn't end here. Head on to @holistic.lifestyle_with_Nick. That is on my Instagram. Or head on to my website, www.holisticlifestyle.com for more info on my coaching framework, which is the Worthy, Authentic, and Abundant Framework, digital guides, and my upcoming events such as retreats and master classes and workshops. Now, I also do intuitive readings where we get to check on your soul path. And if you're